Okay, good evening, everybody. Tomorrow night will be Lag Baomer. And many of us are accustomed to going outside and having bonfires, being with lots of people. In Meron, tens of thousands of people would normally be there. And that's not going to happen this year. There'll be a few people in Meron, but no traffic jams like usually in Eretz Yisrael. I don't know if in Toronto there's going to be any huge bonfires. Where I'm staying in a bit of a more remote area, we're hoping to have some kind of bonfire, and we'll try to Zoom that to everybody. Well, we'll see on weather conditions and things like that. But I want to share some of the relevance of Lag Baomer for us to appreciate. There's a beautiful song called Bar Yochai that many of our Sephardic brothers and sisters say every Shabbos, and many sing on Lag Baomer. And one of the refrains says, Bar Yochai Moshav Tov Yoshafta, a good dwelling you sat in. Yom Nasta, you ran away in the day. Yom Asher Barachta, again, the day you fled for your life. We all know the famous story with Rav Shimon Bar Yochai when he spoke very frankly about the Romans, and there was a price tag on his head, and he had to flee for his life with his son Eliezer. So it's interesting how it says it was a Moshav Tov. It was a good Moshav from Shimon Bar Yochai. And the question is, what was so good about that Moshav? So if we analyze things, we will find that nearly all tzaddikim who revealed the light of the Torah to the Jewish people were in one way or another were fugitives, and they had to run away. Starting back with Abraham, who was preaching ethical monotheism, which was an incredible light to the world, and Nimrod wanted to kill him, and Avram had to hide for many years. Moshe Rabbeinu, the one who would give us the mamish, the light of the Torah, was when he went to, Paro wanted to kill him. He was a fugitive from Paro. He ran away. When he went to Yisrael, Yisrael first threw him in a dungeon for many years. David HaMelech, who is the scion of the Messianic dynasty, had to hide from King Shul and hide in caves. And then when his son Avshalom revolted, he had to hide again. Eliyahu Hanavi had to hide from Izebel and all the false prophets. And yes, Reb Shimon Bar Yochai as well, who would reveal to us the Zohar, had to hide in a cave. And more contemporary will say about the Baal HaTanya, who had to run away from the French and how they were jailed. And even about the last Lubavitcher Rebbe. They tell, when the Rebbe was in Berlin many, many years ago, it was one Purim, very uncharacteristic of him. And when you weren't allowed to be preaching Torah in public, he got up on a chair and began to teach, which was illegal at the time, and then he got thrown in jail. And it's interesting, at the time, Rav Yoshe Ber Soloveitchik, who was a good friend of Lubavitch Rebbe in Germany, he was able to bail the Rebbe out of jail. And he kind of tongue-in-cheek says, oh, now that you sat in jail, I guess you're destined to really be a Rebbe. Because many great people who had spread Torah were always fugitives from the rest of the world. So what's the idea over here? And here is a very powerful message that is taught to us in the Zohar, and it's expanded upon by the Arizal. And we know that when a Jewish neshama has to leave the throne of glory up in Shemayim and has to pass through into this world, there are many difficulties it must go through till it finally gets into this world. There's the concept of Ibur, the pregnancy, where the where the fetus comes into being, the conception of it, the pregnancy for the 9 months, the birth, the yanika, the nursing. It's all a difficult process for this child to become somebody in this world, from a soul above to finally is walking on the face of the earth. It's a very painful ordeal for that soul. And say these holy rabbis that just like you have this, when a soul comes into the world, so too you have often a person has to give birth a second time to the secret of oneself. And the term that is used is called Ibor Sheni, which means really literally the second time in the womb. Which means to say that when Hashem wants to give a person a much deeper understanding of their existence and their reality of this world, for whatever reason it may be, whether the person was neglecting that initial purpose in life, or even if he wasn't, and God has a brand new purpose for the person. But when Hashem wants an individual to have what we'll call a rebirth, for it to be real and meaningful, he has to go through these similar stages as the first time when the soul came into the world. And Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai had to run. He was a great, great tzaddik, no question about it. He's an unbelievable tzaddik. But the greatest part of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai was still hidden from him. He was, so to speak, just a regular Gadol Hador, as it were. He was one of the greats. He was one of the greats in the revealed Torah. But then circumstances required he'd have to run away with his son.
Okay, relax.
No, absolutely.
Put their mute button on would be very good. There's somebody without a mute button, so please put that on.
I just put it on now. Well, then,
Okay, if somebody could please put their mute button on.
I talk like an animal.
no, but you just shouted.
I didn't shout at all.
There's somebody here is not putting their mute button on, and it's disturbing the class. So please, if you could take care of that, I would be very appreciative. Okay. Okay, let's get back. Now I'm back on track over here. So Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai had to go into the cave, buried in the ground. And there, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai was able to uncover the deepest Torah that would exist, the Zohar. And just like the first Ibor, the first gestation period, where it had to go through all the challenges, his soul had to come into this world, so too, as we'll see shortly, it has to go through the same process. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai spent most of his time immersed in the ground, only taking the clothes off to pray. So the Gemara, it's interesting, just like the Talmud refers to a mother as karka olam, the metaphor is like a woman's called like the earth of the world, just like the earth, you plant in it and things grow. And a woman, you plant in her and things grow. So Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai was in the earth. And while it was there, the miracles that happened, that there was a stream of water, and there was the buxa tree, just like the Gemara Nida describes to what is the fetus in a mother's womb comparable. The Gemara Nida Daf Lamed Amud Beis. It's like a folded notebook, and it rests with its hands on its two sides to its head, at its temples, its two arms on its two knees, the fetal position, its heels on its buttocks, its head rests between its knees, its mouth is closed, the umbilical cord is open. It eats, the mother drinks what the mother drinks, and a candle is lit above its head, and it gazes from one end of the world to the other. Meaning to say he's taught Torah. There's a malach who teaches him Torah. And there are no days when a person is in a more blissful state than those days when he is a fetus in the mother's womb. As the Gemara says now, the fetus is taught the entire Torah while in the womb. And the fetus is not leave the womb until the angels administer an oath to it. And what is the oath that the angels administer to the fetus? It says, you must swear, be righteous and do not be wicked. And even if the entire world says to you, you are righteous, consider yourself wicked. And know that the Holy One, blessed be he, is pure and his ministers are pure, and the soul that he gave you is pure. If you preserve it in a state of purity, all is well, but if you do not keep it pure, I, the angels, shall take it from you. That's the life of the fetus in the Ibor, the very first time it's conceived and it's brought into the world. And the holy rabbis say that this often happens a second time in people's lives, when they want to really uncover the depths of who they are. And that's exactly what Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai was going through, as his mom is sitting in the ground, having the water and the bucks are provided for him. And there's where he was learning all the Torah and literally could see from one end of the world to the other. And in that cave were born the lights and the secret of the Mashiach, and most importantly, the secrets of humanity. David HaMelech ran away from Avshalom, his son, and from there comes the light of the Mashiach. All those amazing chapters of Tehillim that change our lives were created then. And as we mentioned last week, when Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai came out of the cave and his son-in-law, Pinchas ben Yor, sees his body, all the skin, the flesh is cracked and it's terrible sores and everything. And he says, "Oh God, that I should come to, woe that I should come to see you at this stage." And Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai says, "Baruch Hashem, you see me in this stage, because how I developed so amazingly this time." As Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai knows that he had to go through this to become what he was. And Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, in the Torah that he teaches, we talk about, Kabbalah, mysticism, Zohar, fancy terms. But what it really is to know the depths of reality in their truest sense. Nothing hokey about this. It's to see reality as it really is, to go deep inside of all reality, to know what is the toho, the essence of everything. And not just about the whole world, but about ourselves. And Reb Shimon Bar Yochai, as he wrote the Zohar, and he went through his life and knows about all Jewish lives that are going to happen after it, he knows that just like he went through an Ibur Sheni, a second gestation period, we all have to go through those second gestation periods. All kinds of difficult situations. Lo aleinu, we shouldn't have to go through these problems where we go through certain sicknesses, lo aleinu. We go through challenges in marriage. We go through challenges in parnasa. As we say, boneh, chaye, mezoneh. Those are the most important things in life, and quite often we're very challenged. And what really happens on an existential level is that we get dragged into caves, so to speak, places of immeasurable pain, where it's really dark. And all these people who get schlepped into the caves are asking, why does Hashem do this to me? Things were going so well until now. Why is Hashem putting me into such a cave? Now we know that in a lot of the literature, there's a concept of mida keneged, mida, measure for measure. There is such a concept. You do certain behavior that's incorrect, Hashem needs to discipline you and has to give you certain life circumstances that will cause you to correct them, which is all fine and well, and we all can use some improvement. But Reb Shimon Bar Yochai came to reveal us something much deeper than that. Is that this is all about looking ourselves in a deeper way. And that just like Avram Avinu, who was a wonderful person, but had to go through such challenges to transcend beyond being a humanitarian, but to be the first person to bring ethical monotheism into the world, he'd have to go through an Ibur Sheni, a life fraught with challenges. And so too with Moshe and David and all the other tzaddikim. And Reb Shimon Bar Yochai going through this Ibur Sheni in the deepest way. And therefore, he's able to explain to us. And why these things are happening is because he's saying to each and every one of us who goes through this Ibur Sheni in our life, that we're sent deep into the Mother Earth of gestation again. And just like Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai was able to acquire a greater radiance that he could never imagine that was inside of himself, so too are we able to go through that as well. Shlomo Melech says in Koheles chapter 4, Pasuk Tesvav, he says, I reflected about all the living who walk under the sun. And then he says, Im hayelad hasheni asher yamod, with the second child who gets up, who arises. And this is exactly what the message is, as the Radziner Rebbe explains. He says a person has to realize that when you're going through a difficult time, it's meant to be the Ibur Hasheni, where we're meant to give birth, as it were, to our second child of ourselves. That only comes with pain and suffering. And dafke in the cave, you must believe that there's a soul, that there's a secret that has to come out. And if it doesn't come out, God forbid, then you'll have to be brought back to planet Earth a second time after you leave this world. And again until you finally get it. So just like, for example, when a baby is born, let's think about this. He has to leave the holiest place that he's existing to go into this world. It's very traumatic for this baby. Yet everyone says Mazel Tov when the baby's born. Because everyone's aware that something great has just happened. And we have to realize that quite often Hashem is putting us in second pregnancies, where he's looking for that real deepest rebirth of who we are. Now, many of us are wondering how long the pregnancy takes during the Ibur Sheni. And the answer is it could go on for indefinite periods of time. It has a lot to do with the person. How much the person, quote unquote, learns from his angel. Or when he's able to, quote unquote, see from one side of the world to the other side of the world. So what is it that what's Lag Baomer about? What are we davening to Lag Baomer, on Lag Baomer for? What should our tefillos be focused on when we start tomorrow night? And what's the idea of the bonfires? So our tefillah should be to Hashem, and they should be in the merit of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. And everyone should pray the words that are most meaningful to them, but something along the lines of this. Somewhere in your tefillos and Shomea Tefillah, wherever your Amida is, or just any time on Lag Baomer, you could say, Dear Father in heaven, give me the emunah to believe that what is going on through my life is, and I should understand, it's an Ibur Sheni, it's a second gestation period that is meant to make me either a better parent, a better child, a better teacher, a better spouse, a better Jew, and that helped me to come through this as a second child who is closer to you. And just like if you recall, when we were parents or expecting parents, and we're praying for a healthy baby, and we wanted everything to go b'shalom, b'shah tova, mutzlachas, because there's so much excited anticipation. So with that same type of desire and prayers, we should pray for a second childbirth of ourselves. And just like every child that comes into the world is one more child that brings the Mashiach closer, our second gestation should be our second childbirth to bring the Mashiach closer. And we pray to Hashem to help me get to the world of the soul, to the secret, to get beyond the cave that's so dark right now. And I find it so interesting that at this time of Lag Baomer, where we celebrate Rabbi Akiva's life, we too are in a certain degree in a cave where we're isolated. Not as bad as Reb Shimon Bar Yochai, but everyone for their abilities. I know yesterday was a cold Shabbos. Baruch Hashem, I have a Rebbetzin who pushes me, and we went for 2 walks in the freezing cold, but I hear most people didn't, or they tried, and the hail was pelleting that, sending them back into their caves, alone in the darkness of our caves. Or maybe some of the illumination that's from our caves is coming from sources that are illuminating the wrong things, God forbid. But we praying to Hashem that Hashem help me appreciate this Ibor Sheni we're going through, especially this year. And Reb Shimon Bar Yochai, please give me a little of your fire, a little of your warmth, so I can see things the way you do, with a little of your eyes and a little of your warmth. And just like we learned in the Mesilas Yesharim, in the first paragraph last week, where we said that the person doesn't really have the focus in life. He's like the blind man groping in the darkness. Those are the caves of our lives. But Bedavka, in those places is where the light can come. The Zohar HaChodesh says that Eliyahu visited Reb Shimon Bar Yochai, and he said, "Get up, Rabbi Shimon. Your portion is so great. Ashrecha, how happy you should be. And Hashem wants your kavod. And Baruch Hashem, he's like saying, you've passed all the tests." And he says, all the promises that Hashem has ever made and all the comforts that Hashem will ever give, they're all written in the klalos and the curses in the Torah. That's what the Zohar says on Parshas Kisavo. Through things that look like curses, really all the blessings are coming from that. And that's what Hashem told Reb Shimon Bar Yochai. And as we are in our caves, in our isolation, we have to hear Eliyahu saying those same words to us when we're sitting in our dark place. And we're davening on Lag Baomer that Hashem, and in the schus of Reb Shimon Bar Yochai, help us believe that all the blessings and all the comforts should result from this Ibor Sheni that we're having in our homes. And we don't know how long this gestation period is going to last. But we have to remember, and I'll probably talk about this at another time, but just like Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, even after he was 12 years in the cave and he was finally told to go out, when he went out with his son and they saw the world the way it was, they did not approve of what they saw. And the righteous indignation they had for that world that caused all kinds of troubles forced Eliyahu to say, I didn't send you out into the world to destroy it again. Go back for another year. So we have to understand that we have to really believe we're going through a second rebirth. And we're looking forward to get out of the cave. We have to remember, if we get out of the cave without getting to the deepest essence of who we really are, who's to say Hashem's not going to ask us to go back into our caves, because Hashem is not planning to send us out of the cave to destroy the world. So it really takes some perception and some introspection. And that's how the Blazher Rebbe explains a very interesting idea. We're coming up to Parshas Bahar and Buchukosai. And Buchukosai talks about all the terrible curses and destruction and calamities that will happen to the Jewish people if we don't follow the Torah. And then there's some words of comfort towards the end. And then comes a very unusual parsha called Erchin, where a person, I don't want to get into the details, a person is capable of giving to the temple the value of what his life is worth and the value of other types of lives. And certain people are worth so much, for people worth others. It's called Erchin, value, evaluations of people. And someone asked the Blazher Rebbe, said, what's the connection? We're talking about curses and this and that, and now we're just talking about some mundane topic of if you want to offer your value of what you're worth to the temple, what's the connection over here? And remember, the Bloshever Rebbe was a Holocaust survivor. And he answered, in the camps, I saw Jews who were beaten, degraded, starving, emaciated. And yet at the same time, I saw Jews waiting in line to put on just a tefillin shel yad, not even a full pair. And he says, I saw, and they wait for hours at threat of being killed. He says, and I saw with my own eyes the toichach. I saw with my own eyes the words of rebuke and suffering. And I learned that if you want to know how valuable you are, it's who you are and how strong you are after going through the curses. And that's why in the Parsha, after the curses and after the calamities, then we'll know what you're really worth. And that's why I've started Mesilas Yesharim for the last few weeks, and now we're really beginning what I'm coming towards. The main goal is the chapter on Zehirus, as I said last week, coming from the word Zohar to illuminate. That while we're in our caves, we are meant to go through an Ibur Sheni, a second gestation period. And as wonderful and as good as we are, Hashem is saying, you know what, we're getting closer to Mashiach, and we have no idea the depths and the secrets inside of us of how much greater we could be. We have no idea, just like Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai had no idea 13 years before he comes out of the cave, what kind of deep secrets he will share with the entire world and literally change the face of Yiddishkeit. No different than David, Moshe, Avram had no idea what they would become, but it came through that. And when you're in the cave, when he learned the Zohar, in our caves, we have to learn Zehirus, which needs a lot of digging deep into the ground. Just want to end with the words of Yeshaya. Yeshaya Perek Nun Dalet Pasuk Dalet. Hashem says, "Berega katon azavticha." For a little while I forsook you. Uberachamim gedolim akabetzcha. But with great mercy I will collect you back. And people ask the obvious question: do you call the Spanish Inquisition a rega katon, a little while? Did you call the destructions with Khmelnytsky and Makshimo a little while? Did you call the Holocaust a little while? How could God call it a little while? And the answer is, from Hashem's perspective, it's a little while. But we can make a beautiful Kal V'chomer, an a fortiori argument. If all those sufferings that we have gone through are called a little while, you can imagine what the next part of the pasuk says when it says, "Uberachamim gedolim akabetzcha," and with great mercy I will collect you back. Can you imagine how great that mercy is going to be? So we have to remember that as much as we're in our homes, remember it's a rega katon, and we should come out of it with rachamim gedolim. So please, let's take advantage. Let's dig a lot deeper, because we're going to be here for quite a bit longer. I have no idea. We should get out, but let's not get out, God forbid, with a spiritual miscarriage, but really to have a genuine second rebirth that will bring the Mashiach B'mheira Yameinu. Amen. Thank you for listening. We'll see you tomorrow when we start Mesilas Yesharim. And we'll let you know tomorrow if we're on for the bonfire and maybe a few more words of Torah about Lag Baomer as well. So have a good night, everybody, and thank you all for listening.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Yes,
Rabbi.
Rabbi.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Bye.